scrolling over the pictures because I haven't seen my students in so long. So it's wonderful to see them and wonderful that you all are here as well. But again, tonight we want to honor those who served in the American Foreign Service and to the members of the Operation Eagle Claw who attempted to rescue them. I'm just elated again to be a part of this program tonight. I'm very proud of my students. You've persevered and completed this project during this COVID-19 pandemic. So I applaud all of you for your efforts in doing that. I'd also like to just say for a moment that Mr. Blackman is an exceptional teacher. And he begins the research on a project for the upcoming year. He'll start as soon as the school year ends. So he spends the entire summer looking for a project to honor our citizens in our country. So I want to applaud Mr. Blackman. He's written a book that some of you may not know about, so I need to put a plug in for him because he will never say it himself. But he wrote a book about the same type of honoring the students. It's entitled The Long Journey Home, The Untold Stories of Forgotten Heroes. And you can purchase it on Amazon. But again, it's about all the student stories that they've written over the past 7 years now, 6 of which I've been a part of. So again, I just want to say, because this is not about me tonight, it's about my students and the honorees, but I want to say thank you for taking time to be a part of this event tonight. I'd like to thank my staff members. I saw Roxanne Edgerton, a part of the program. She's a supervisor for Chesapeake Public Schools for the history department. And I have a few of my teachers, Mr. Ortiz and Mr. Patry. Thank you for being a part of this as well. And again, I'm looking forward to the student presentations and the honorees being honored tonight. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunbar. I appreciate those comments. Now, we're also very fortunate to have Councilman Matt Hamill, who's going to officially greet you. So, Mr. Hamill, would you say a few words?
Sure. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much, Mr. Blackman. My name is Matt Hamill. I am one of the council members here in the city of Chesapeake. On behalf of the mayor and the entire city council, and one of my colleagues, Councilwoman Debbie Ritter, she's also on the call with you all tonight. We would like to welcome all of you to this presentation, and we certainly want to tell the students how proud of you we are that you have essentially taken on this project from Mr. Blackman and brought history to life. I got to know Mr. Blackman about 5 years ago when I was the chairman of the Mayor's Commission on Veterans Affairs for our city. And Mr. Blackman approached me as the chairman and said, I would like to do a project to honor some of the fallen from Vietnam, some Chesapeake heroes who never got the proper welcome. And I'm hoping we can partner with the Mayor's Commission and do a ceremony or a presentation during the Memorial Day ceremony. And he had the students be a part of the city ceremony, and the families that came up and the outpouring of gratitude was so striking to me. And Mr. Blackman, what you do on a yearly basis to bring history alive to your students is it is inspiring. And so I hope that if there's 2 messages tonight from the city, or 3 messages. One is to thank and tell the students how proud of you we are. The second is to tell all of those of you represented, the true heroes of this presentation and your families, that I am just delighted and proud to be a part of this in a very small way right now and in honoring you. And the last thing that I'd like to say is that I hope some of the students or one of the students tonight will be inspired to follow in Mr. Blackman's footsteps and maybe be a teacher in the future and bring history alive to the next generation. So I will stop droning on now, Mr. Blackman, but thank you so much for the opportunity on behalf of the city to say a few short words.
Thank you, Mr. Hamill. I appreciate that. Thank you for those kind words. And thank you for your support over the years. You have always been there for our school and for me, and I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Okay, we're going to move on, and I wanted to share a little bit about our class project and how we got to this point, because it's quite a story. And I want to first of all thank a number of people who helped make this possible, and that includes Town Bank, who was They're very, very generous to us. Bayport Credit Union, BFW Post 2894, a great friend of the river, and Chris Mulholland. I know a lot of you know Chris, who's been a true brave, who has always been helpful and supported me throughout the years. Very, very grateful for that. I want to thank New Life Church for their strong sense of community outreach. They have supported this. I want to also add to that the Great Bridge Ruritan Club. They made a donation. Also, the Guru Nanak Foundation, which is a Sikh community in this area. They have been extremely supportive of all the things that I have asked. So I'm very appreciative of that. I do want to say also thanks to Mike Flanagan. I did not have a very good webcam before I started this presentation, and he said, if there's anything I can do for you, I will support you. So Mr. Flanagan mailed me an HD webcam a couple of days ago, and so I really, really appreciate the fact that he committed to that and ended up helping me in that way. So thank you very much. Let me give a shout out also to LTC Andrew Burgess, who's in the Special Forces. Thank you for your service, sir. And thank all of you who have served in the American Foreign Service and the military, men and women. Thank you. Thank you. I salute you. And that is the message here. If anything else, I just salute you and all that you have done here. So I wanted to explain how we spend our money, because that's always an important part of what we do here. So I'm going to screen share just for a moment here so you can see the gifts that we have provided for our recipients, and we're almost there. Here we go. Okay, so each one of our recipients was given an Afghan like this. This is for Lieutenant General, in honoring of Lieutenant General James Vaught and his family. But everybody that we studied received one of these, and I think it's just a lovely Afghan that is quality work, and I am just joyful that I could give this to you. Honestly, I'm just ecstatic about it, because it really is I think, honoring to the families and represents the values that you all hold dear. All right, so let me tell you the story about the project. And to be honest with you, I didn't really have an idea for this year. And then last spring, I was at a Chamber of Commerce meeting raising money for the book that I published. And at the end of the meeting, a woman said to me, Craig, did you know that one of the hostages that was taken in 1979 was from Chesapeake? And I stood there dumbfounded, my jaw dropped to the ground. I just stared. How could I not know this? After 34 years, I had no earthly idea that this was the case, not a clue. And so I said, that is the story for this year coming up. And at that point in time, I had a connection to the Chamber of Commerce with Jennifer Sharon Knight. And I have to say, without her, this would never have taken place. Thank you for your support, Mrs. Knight. I am truly appreciative of all of that. At that point in time, then she helped me connect with Tom Langford, and I think most of you probably know who Tom Langford is. And so that's how this whole process began. So in the project, the students were given a couple of responsibilities. They were paired up, and one had to create some artwork that was relevant to the hostage crisis, and also have a Google slide presentation that is also relevant to the situation. It could have been talking about the movie Argo, or it could have been talking about the Shah, President Carter, a lot of different topics for that. The other person was supposed to write a biographical essay about each of you. And so they used the memoirs that you wrote as their primary sources, and we had some State Department resources that we also used to write your biographical essays. And so it was quite a thrill to read some of those and to be a part of that. I would say one of the breakthroughs was in the fall when I had sent out the email to Mr. Langford, and I wanted to get a response from you. And I got a call from Mr. Matrinko. And it was a pleasant surprise. And we discovered that there's a very strong likelihood that I met him when I was 18 years old. I was on a wrestling team touring Iran, and he worked at the consulate in Tabriz. And I distinctly remember one night we competed against the Iranian army wrestlers, and they were on the Soviet border. And then afterwards, I remember stopping at a consulate, and I had not been home for a while, and so I remember being served a little pineapple juice, and that meant a lot because I was spoiled basically, and I missed some of those comforts of home. But I may well have met him at that time, so it's a very small world. So as we progressed, I still wanted to contact all of you so you could interview or be interviewed by my students. Didn't have a whole lot of luck there. And then around Christmas time, I said, I'm going to try again. So between Facebook and whitepages.com, I just kept calling and calling and calling. And I remember I was going to my mother's house in New Jersey, and I found Colonel, trying to think of his name now, Colonel Kyle's number. And I said, can it be this easy? So I called, he lived in Honolulu, and he picks up the phone. And he said, sure, I'd love to be a part of your project. And so that was quite a surprise, I have to say. I also ended up facilitating some Skype sessions with Mr. Sickman and, of course, Mr. Matrenko again, and Mrs. Koob, and that was just delightful. And it was just an unforgettable experience to have them interact with the students. They're so lucky to really have this. And it also provided context for some of the current events this year. I know we've all heard about the assassination of Qasem Soleimani. And so when the students had this context of the project, they understood a little more what was going on with the current events in our day. And then we had the COVID crisis. And that seemed to change a lot. And we decided, despite the obstacles, we were going to finish what we started. We made a commitment. We wanted to continue that commitment and get the job done. So we said, we're going to go through that. We're going to use Zoom as a way to have this virtual reception. So that really is the story of how this all began. I just want to make a few comments to some of the individuals that are here. And Mrs. Scher, I know that you're there virtually, and I just wanted to say you are a remarkable woman. And now, being a teacher, I put on my teacher's hat, and I think, what was it like for you to go through this? You had to take care of your classes, you had to take care of your family, and keep it all together, and right, and be a professional. And you are just an amazing woman. You're just a very resilient, amazing woman, and I'm just really amazed. And you are to be esteemed for your courage during this time, because I know it was very, very difficult. So I just wanted to give you, some words right there. And I want to say also, in honoring Lieutenant General Vaught, that he was a legend in his time. He was both a scholar, a soldier, fought in 3 wars, wounded I think at least 3 times. And he was truly someone who was respected by all, who defended our values and saved countless American lives. And he truly possessed the warrior spirit of his ancestors. I did a little bit of research, and apparently there was some discussion that he's related to Francis Marion, the swamp fox. So I saw a little connection there, who knows, but it could be, And to all of you in the American Foreign Service, I just wanted to say again, thank you for your lifetime of service, of building bridges, of being peacemakers, and your efforts to make the world a better place are remembered here. And we're becoming a little more provincial these days, if you understand what I'm saying here, but thank you that you engaged the world and that you modeled that for my students. You expanded your horizons and had big dreams. And it's a treasure to know you, and to just know your stories and how you engage the world is just amazing. And I'm truly, truly grateful for all that you have done. I really am. So I'm going to stop talking at this point in time and let the kids talk a little bit. So we're going to have Ramsey Cooper, who was a part of our award-winning forensics team, who's going to honor Mr. Kennedy, who I don't think is here. I reached out to him, but wasn't able to become a part of this, but I do want Ramsey to say a few words in honor of Mr. Kennedy. Ramsey?
Hey, Abdul here. Ramsey's having some technical difficulties, but luckily she sent me her script, so I'm just gonna go ahead and read that for her.
Okay, I'll let you fill in there. Oh, good job.
Moorhead Kennedy was a true scholar with a passion for the Middle East and the Arabic language. Working as an economist for the State Department, he served in Athens, Greece, Beirut, Lebanon, Santiago, Chile, and of course the American Embassy in Iran. Moorhead Kennedy assessed the Iranian economy's response to the Islamic Revolution. However, we also are reminded of the trauma experienced by many of those held in captivity and the toll it took on their families. Many suffered PTSD for years to come. In fact, Mr. Kennedy, in one of his interviews, stated that one of his fellow captives had not had a good night's sleep in 36 years. He had a litany of achievements, including being the executive director of the Council of International Understanding in New York City and the president of Moorhead Kennedy Institute, also in New York City. In fact, his book, The Ayatollah and the Cathedral, Reflections of a Hostage, is considered a careful and reasoned analysis of the American Foreign Service. He was given the State Department's Medal of Honor for America. Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut described Mr. Kennedy as a patriot with a great public servant. Tonight, we honor Mr. Kennedy for his keen economic insights and lifetime of service, building cultural bridges and making the world a better place. We also remember his wife, Louisa, who was an advocate for all the hostages who fought for their release.
Thank you, Abdul. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay, I'd like to hear from Olivia Dorsey next, who's going to honor the Scher family.
Hey. Hi, guys. My person who I was researching was Mr. Donald Scher. So I'm just going to go ahead and start with the tribute. Mr. Donald Scher was a naval air attaché who was renowned for his knowledge of F-14 planes, the reason why he was sent to Iran. His mission was to teach the Iranians how to fly them and learn what they wanted to do with them. During his life as a hostage, he continually showed courage and defied his captors in as many ways as he could, such as hiding messages in toilet rolls, using Morse code, and discovering their weaknesses. His wife, Ms. Scher, should be honored as well because of her resilience and courage. During the trying times, she protected her family, continued to teach her students, and remained strong, despite not knowing if her husband would return. Her role is often looked over, but she truly played a burdensome role that was not only crucial to her children, but her students as well. Overall, this project taught me that no matter what life throws at you, you have the ability to bear it, face it, and overcome it. The key to it, as Mr. Scher said, is being mentally strong. Today, we honor and thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Scher, with the rest of those affected by the Iranian hostage crisis.
Thank you. Thank you. Would you like to respond, Mrs. Scher, or Mrs. Knight, possibly?
Olivia, you did an outstanding job. I had so much fun talking to you on the phone and coming to the class to speak to the AP US history classes. You hit the nail on the head. You did a beautiful job, Olivia. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on and going to hear from Austin, who's going to honor General Vaught.
Good evening. During the Iranian hostage crisis, General James Vaught was given the job to oversee carrying out of Operation Eagle Claw, which was a Delta Force operation to attempt to rescue the 53 hostages from captivity. He was very dedicated to this role and the weight it bared. He served his country in the Army and was dedicated to anything asked of him. I truly want to acknowledge his courageous and honorable actions throughout his long career. Mr. Vaught was an innovative and capable man who served both his country and home selflessly. He received many honors and medals to honor his actions. He fought in both the Vietnam and Korean Wars. During his years of service, he received 2 Combat Infantry badges, 2 Silver Stars, 2 Bronze Stars, a Flying Cross, and 3 Legion of Merit badges across his 38 years of service and commitment to the U.S. Army. I learned a lot from this project and wanted to share the one thing that stood out to me the most. The project allowed me to view events more on just what happened, but by other events that were affected by it. Operation Eagle Claw didn't succeed initially, but it caused the military to make major changes in their Special Operations Department, like creating a permanent Delta Force for hostage rescue and a special board to oversee it. Thank you.
Thank you, Austin. Mr. Vaught, would you like to respond?
Thanks, Craig. I sent a personal note to both Allie Strauss and Austin, which I will not read, but I wanted you to know that these 2 individuals were kind enough to come to my house. They asked me a number of questions about not only about my dad, but how the hostage situation and the aftermath of the failure of the mission impacted our family and our lives years afterwards. I was able to share with them some of the reflections that my dad had shared with me about the things that occurred for him in his life, and areas that were disappointments, but also things that he was very proud about. And I know Colonel Kyle's book, The Guts to Try, is probably one of the books that he admired most about the military's response to this crisis. And so I want to just applaud Allison and Austin for their work. And I know this will teach them valuable lessons about moving forward, even when they have hard assignments that they don't think they can accomplish, that they know that people are willing to help them. And so anyway, I just wanted to pass on my thanks.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. Vaught. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Next, we have Aaliyah, who's going to talk about Colonel Kyle.
James Kyle, the commander of the Air Force, was one of the participants in the 1980 Iran hostage rescue attempt. When he was called to join a secret task force, he developed innovative tactics, which incorporated infrared lighting and night vision devices. This revolutionized flight operations in total darkness. This was told to be the highlight of his career, and today we are going to recognize and admire him for his hard work and dedication. The attempt on the Operation Eagle Claw by him and others allowed him to better improve operation missions in the future. For example, the creation of reformed SOAR, they believed that this would be needed to highly train people for Army helicopters, which hoped in developing the ability for low-level missions. This also led to the killings of ISIS and Al-Qaeda leaders, being Baghdadi and Osama bin Laden. Some awards and accomplishments he made throughout his lifetime was his Defense Superior Service Medal. He gave detailed experiences of his mission in his book, The Guts to Try. He was also inducted into the U.S. Special Operations Commando Hall of Honor, and he retired with the rank of Colonel. I recently had the experience to email him personally and get a little bit more insight of his personal life growing up. And I think the takeaway from this project was inspiration, just seeing him so involved in his childhood with all the sports and all the awards he was given, and seeing that transfer into his life throughout the mission is just incredibly inspiring. It's sad to say that he did pass away recently, and I'm upset that I didn't get to speak to him about my essay and let him look over it, but I know that he is a good man and he did a lot of inspiring things throughout his lifetime.
Thanks, Aaliyah. Appreciate that. Next, we're going to have Ayana. We'll talk about Bruce Langham.
So nervous. Okay. So Bruce Langham was a Minnesota-made American diplomat known primarily for being the chargé d'affaires during the Iranian hostage crisis. His diplomatic career ranged from the years 1949 to 1987, and throughout that time, he served as a naval lieutenant. He joined the U.S. Foreign Service. He was appointed ambassador to Malta, the Charge d'Affaires, and vice president of the National Defense University. I would like to personally, well, I can't personally, but I would like to thank Mr. Langham for his hard work and courage during that tough time, and thank him for also continuing to stay strong for the people that looked up to him, and for continuing his diplomatic work even long after the tragedy. And his name will go down in history, and he will definitely be missed by many. Doing this project has made me realize that no matter what, I can continue on, and it has been made clear to me that through all struggles, even when it may seem hard, there is always a way out. And I would also like to say that he's a good man because he did not hold any grudges towards Iran. Until like the day he died, he still believed that the U.S. should have a strong relationship with him. And I think that was like a really cool thing because he can move on with his life.
Thanks, Ayana. Is there a response from Mr. Langham? Would you like to respond?
Wow, what a fantastic tribute. Thank you so much. Really wonderful accounting of his career and life and the things that he believed in. He was a people person. He loved engaging with people. That's what took him into diplomacy. And you're absolutely right. He really appreciated the Iranian people and their culture and was so crushed, for years that we just could never even talk to them. That was a huge disappointment. And, throughout his life after the hostage crisis, he lived with the pain of the loss of the embassy that under his watch. But he also, felt so proud of all the team and the people that served with him there. And he just was just so proud of that. And he would have loved this event. He would have appreciated this event so much. It's just all about what he believed in. He was involved with the presidential classroom for young people. And it's just this type of thing that he loved to do. So thanks again for having this tribute. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we have Cassandra, who's going to honor Barry Rosen.
Cassie is having difficulties where she's at now, so I'll be the one talking on her behalf.
I'm back if you want me to read it, Matthew.
There you go.
I'm sorry. The connection is really bad where I am.
Okay. We're ready.
So Barry Rosen, his interest began in the 1960s when he decided to join the Peace Corps. He eventually became a press attaché for the American Embassy. He's always had an interest for Iran and his studies in it. He taught English there and learned Farsi also. His courage and resilience towards the Iran hostage crisis is phenomenal. One thing he said to me was people are much more resilient than they think they are, and that has stuck with me ever since he told me that. I believe that is true after speaking to him and reading his book. Even though it got hard, he told himself to stay alive, and he eventually came back to the United States. His family made it easier to return to civilian life, and he furthered his education in Iranian studies and eventually went back to Iran. To this day, he still doesn't have any hatred toward the Iranian people and does not blame them for what they do. A takeaway I learned from this project is that we really are more resilient than we think we are. Seeing how some of the hostages, like Barry Rosen, don't have hatred or a grudge toward the people make me think how some of us, especially high school students, hold grudges over the smallest things, and these people were kidnapped and held hostage and don't hold a grudge.
Thank you, Cassandra. Mr. Rosen, would you like to respond?
Yes. Cassie, I really appreciate what you've said and appreciate what you said about how I feel about our relationship to Iran and how I would like to see it improve in the future. But you've done an amazing job in describing how I feel about what went on in the Iran crisis. And I honor what you've done and honor what you and your teacher, Craig Blackman, have done for us. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we have Abdul, who's going to honor Michael Matrinko.
That's me, isn't it? Yeah, I'm Abdul. You probably can see that. And wanted to honor Mr. Matrinko's service. I wrote an essay discussing how Michael Matrinko's service and contributions make him more than a man in every aspect. His origins begin from the Peace Corps in his youth, where he would encounter immigrants from all over the world. He's held several positions during his time as a political officer in Iran, a consul general in Israel, a deputy director of Northern Gulf Affairs. However, his work during the Peace Corps as a teacher proves to be his most significant contribution. So that despite America's view on the Middle East, he strives to aid the people there. It was this caring dedication to a struggling nation that would ensnare him in an overthrow of leadership in Iran by student rebellion. During his time, he would be perpetually tortured and held in solitary confinement for over a year, which is ample time to break even the strongest of minds. However, Mr. Matrinko did not break during his time. He remained a shining symbol of strength and perseverance. It is because of this unwavering dedication that we honor him today. Clearly, Michael Matrinko is more than a man. He is the ideal of peace.
Thank you. Mr. Matrinko, would you like to respond?
I just want to thank you all. Abdul, thank you very much for the kind words. And I hope that I'm looking, when I look at the students who are joining us here today, I hope I'm looking at a few future foreign service officers and military officers. Think about it. It's a great life to look back on. And good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we have Dolores, who's going to honor John Lindberg.
John W. Lindberg is the former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Iran in the State Department's Bureau of Near Eastern Affairs. During his diplomatic career, he served in the Middle East and Islamic Africa. Mr. Lindberg joined the Foreign Service in 1973, which included tours in places like Algeria, Iran, and Saudi Arabia. In 1979, he was posted at the U.S. Embassy in Tehran as a diplomat. It was that same year that he and 51 other Americans were captured and held hostage for 444 days. Since the crisis's end in 1981, Mr. Lindberg has received the Distinguished Service Award, which is the Department of State's highest award, along with the Award for Valor for his courage and resilience displayed during the crisis. Mr. Lindberg has also authored many books about Iran and its history since the crisis. One of the main takeaways I got from this project was that no matter how bad a situation may be, you can't lose hope. I'm grateful for the experience of working on this project because I not only got to learn about a major historical event, but because I also got to learn from John Lindberg's bravery in the face of adversity, which will inspire me for years to come.
Thank you, Dolores. Is there a response, Mr. Lindberg? Would you like to say something?
Yes, briefly. First of all, thank you, Dolores. And I must say, that I love the flattery. And maybe you could have gone on a little longer with the flattery. That would have been fine. No, I see a lot of friends and colleagues here. I'd love to sort of recognize everybody one by one, but it would take the whole time. Craig, thanks to you. Boy, your students are so lucky. Lucky to have you as a teacher, and all I can say is keep up the good work. Keep up the good work. I see three of my Foreign Service colleagues, Catherine, Barry, and Michael. Barry and Michael, I should mention, were, for better or worse, my wife's Persian student. She always says that Michael was the best student she ever had. Also, to thank General Vaughn and his crew and those incredibly brave people on the Eagle Claw mission. And a special thanks, I see Rocky and Curtly and Bill Curtly, our Marines. I've often said, and I still believe, that the reason that I'm here today and alive was the courage, discipline, and training of our Marine Guards. So thanks to everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate those comments. Next, we have Andrew Smith, who's going to honor Rocky Sickman.
Okay. Rocky Sickman was a Marine Corps guard from Missouri who worked at the U.S. Embassy in Iran and one of the 52 Americans held hostage during the hostage crisis. This lasted for 444 days, and Rocky and the others showed great courage and resilience through this incredibly difficult time. He knew from an early age that the Marine Corps is what he wanted to do so he could go and see the world. I would like to say thank you to Mr. Sickman for his service to this country and what he's done for us all today. What I took away from this project is to never give up, even when that seems like the only option.
Thank you, Andrew. Is there a response, Mr. Sickman?
You know, Greg, I got to give you credit, and Mrs. Dunbar, he would not give up. He kept emailing, and there's so many emails that people send wanting to get involved in different events, and I'm so happy I responded to you, Greg, because this is incredible, and especially to see all my colleagues. And Mr. Lindberg, you're absolutely correct. That morning of November 4th, 1979, I was a young Marine. And I look back that morning, I had my finger on that trigger of that sawed-off shotgun in the basement. And my orders were to stand down. And, you know, obviously I wished those 444 days locked in a room, I wished going back, I would have pulled the trigger. But the good thing is I responded to my orders. And they were very difficult orders, and here we are. But those first couple of months, I sat there and thought, you know, the Vietnam War had ended in the early 70s, and I'm sitting there thinking nobody cared about the Vietnam veterans, and it was very lonely. And little did I realize that people back home had been tying yellow ribbons. Here we are, and Barry, you corrected me, it's 41 years, and we're still talking about that. And you know, freedom is not free. And for all of the students that are here this evening to spend your quality time to listen to these stories, they are stories. Eventually, we're not going to be here, and they're going to be stories that hopefully you'll remember. And those individuals that passed away, Operation Eagle Claw. I now work for an organization called Folds of Honor that provides scholarships to families of fallen and disabled. Every morning I wake up, I think of those 8 individuals that sacrificed the ultimate sacrifice, their life. They come over, they didn't know me, but they did it because I was an American, what that flag represents. And so it's an honor to have been able to participate in this wonderful event. And really, especially to see all my colleagues that we went, everybody, there was 52 of us that went through an ordeal in a different manner, and it all came out in a different manner. And we deal with it. I have this wonderful lady. I sat in my room for 444 days. Many of you remember my girlfriend then, my wife now, 39 wonderful years. I just thought of her, and she was like my Castaway, the movie Castaway, Tom Hanks. I wanted to make sure I got home, and we've been married for 39 wonderful years. I have 3 wonderful children, grandchildren, that now I'm telling the story to. And so I, again, salute you, Craig, Mr. Dunbar, Mr. Hamill, and all the other, Andrew, thank you so much for the tribute. It's been an honor for me to be here and just share my story. So thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Bravo, Rocky. Bravo.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to hear from Abby, who's going to honor Catherine Koob.
One of the 2 females held in Iran for the 444-day period of the Iranian hostage crisis, Miss Catherine Koob stayed strong and made it through the toughest of times while still retaining her faith and selfless personality. The resilience Miss Koob displayed shows how, despite difficulty, having faith and belief that things will get better is enough to get you through even the most difficult of obstacles. Ms. Cobb's experience shows the importance of learning the stories of others. Knowing how someone else is thinking can aid in avoiding conflicts. Being kind to one another is of the utmost importance, making it possible to avoid losing yourself while dealing with difficult people. Forgiveness is what helped Ms. Cobb through the aftermath of the crisis, preventing years of bitterness after her liberation. And, above all, staying faithful and putting your trust in your religion is imperative to accepting life's difficulties. Faith guided her journey, raised her spirits when she was down, and forgiveness kept her positive, teaching the most important lesson of all. Learning to accept yourself and placing your full trust in your faith and personal strength is the only way to truly live with happiness and acceptance for others. Discovering your personal story is the best way to learn how to listen to the stories of others, allowing you to gain a more rich understanding of who makes up your world. Extending the same philosophy into our everyday lives will not only prevent unnecessary conflicts, but also to help us love one another.
Thank you, Abby. I appreciate that. Would you like to respond, Mrs. Coob?
It's Ms. My mother was Mrs. Cobb, and it rhymes with robe. But Abby, thank you so much for, you did an incredible job. It was great talking with you. And I second everything that Rocky and John and Mike and Barry have already said. This is an incredible project. Thank you, Mr. Blackman, for putting it together, Mrs. Dunbar for having the wisdom to let teachers do strange and wonderful things. And for all of you students, there's one thing that I would add that, and one of the reasons I do projects like this is because I want you to understand that this didn't happen just to Barry and to me and to Rocky and to John and Mike. It happened to our families, it happened to our friends, and nothing happens in isolation. And this incredible support that we got from the community, and then this amazing attempt to come in and rescue us and bring us home. The other woman who was held the full 444 days, Ann Swift and I, when we found out about this, we just sat in our room and we never, ever, ever found a word to express how that affected us, except to say that we were absolutely stunned that this would happen. And then we thought, but this is America. We take care of each other, and we must learn to continue to take care of each other and to put the good of the group above so many other things. So thank you for doing this project, and thank you for hearing our stories and for knowing that we are all linked with you and, you know, with your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren somewhere down the pike. We are rugged individuals, but we are rugged individuals united in the good for each other. And I think this is just such a marvelous way for you to begin to think how you're going to make that work in your life. Never say no. Always say, I'll think about it, and then see how you could make it work for you. It's an amazing time, and thank you so much for being willing to learn and to study and to do the things that you're doing to make life for everybody better and better. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cobb. I appreciate that. Next, we have Isaiah, who's going to honor Colonel Charlie Beckwith.
Charlie Beckwith was born on January 22nd, 1929. Mr. Beckwith was a strong and very courageous man for serving in the U.S. Armed Forces. He contributed greatly to the U.S. Army by creating Delta Force. Also, he had great foresight and predicted that the U.S. will one day be hit with a terrorist attack. His service in the Special Forces is greatly appreciated. In total, he served in the Korean War, Laotian Civil War, Malayan Emergency, and the Vietnam War. His awards include a Legion of Merit, a Bronze Star, and a Purple Heart. I want to honor Mr. Beckwith for his bravery and resilience to help advance the U.S. military. One takeaway I got from this project was the impact that the Iranian hostage crisis had on America by leaving us vulnerable and making us be more precise with how we conduct foreign affairs.
Thank you, Isaiah. Would you like to respond, Mrs. Howe?
Yes, thank you, Isaiah. I really appreciate that, and I enjoyed talking to you. I think my father would really have enjoyed this like everybody else. I ditto from what everyone's saying, but when he was alive, he did speak to a lot of schools, and he loved it. He loved, sharing the story. And I know if he was alive, he would tell all the students to study hard, be independent, don't quit, be tough. And he would say, love America. And he'd be saying, stay strong during what's going on. I'm impressed with all of you, all you students. I think you all are awesome. It's probably been really tough to go through this pandemic. I applaud you. I'd like to say it's an honor to be in the presence of all the other honorees. I don't think I really knew that I'd get to really see all of you. So I thank you, and I just wish everybody the best of luck. And Isaiah, do good if you need anything. Email me. I'm here to help you.
Thank you. I appreciate those comments. Next, we have Bill, who's going to honor Howard Hart.
Hello, my name is William Poston. Howard Hart was born in St. Louis, Missouri in 1940, but was raised in the middle of the Philippines. He lived in an internment camp controlled by the Japanese until its liberation in 1940. Felt he owed his country his life in return. So he joined the CIA after college in 1966. He was most known for his involvement in Operation Eagle Claw, the Iran hostage crisis. Along with his involvement in Operation Eagle Claw, Hart was also tasked with creating a concept for a counter-narcotics center. The CNC was created to fight the drug war in the U.S. The CNC even served as an example for new centers working on important issues. Howard retired in 1991 and started a consulting business with his wife, Jean, in the Blue Ridge Mountains in Virginia. Hart passed away in 2017 of organ complications caused by a beating he received in Tehran, Iran, several years back. Hart was very passionate about our country, and we thank him for his leadership and service in the CIA. He helped many people in programs. The U.S. shall forever be grateful. Learning about Howard Hart and his motives, thoughts, and accomplishments has taught me to stick to my morals and pursue what I'm most passionate about.
Thank you, Bill. We appreciate that. Mr. Verbley, would you like to comment? Mr. Verbley, would you like to comment?
He's speaking, but he must be muted, Craig.
Okay. Mr. Verbley, can you unmute? Okay, we will try to come back to that a little bit later if we can. I want to keep going here. So next we're going to have Denise and Kara, and they're going to honor Stephen Curtly.
Hello.
Kara?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Stephen Curtly, through being held hostage in Iran and working for years in the U.S. Marine Corps, has shown great dedication to the safety of the United States, along with the dedication to sharing his story to as many individuals as possible. After being released from Iran, he re-enlisted into the Marines and served for many years before retiring in 2002. His many awards include the Prisoner of War Medal, Defense Meritorious Service Medal, Navy Commendation Medal, Joint Service Achievement Medal, Navy Achievement Medal, Combat Action Ribbon, and the State Department Award of Valor. Through hearing his story, we've learned the importance of resilience in the face of danger, along with the importance of sharing one's experiences with others. The courage and dedication that he's shown throughout his life has helped to protect countless lives, and it was an honor to learn about his many sacrifices and achievements. Mr. Curtly's story is truly inspirational, and we thank him tremendously for sharing it with us.
Thank you, lady. Appreciate that. Would you like to respond, Mr. Curtly?
Are you able to hear me? We're driving north on 75 in Florida on our way to Michigan. So technology is great. And this will give you an idea of how important this event was for me. It's a great write-up and a great honor, and I really appreciate it. And wish I had the opportunity to let my sons here to know what a great guy I am. Also, I appreciate so much the gift that you guys sent to me, although there's a little confusion in the house as to whose gift it is, if it's mine or the puppies. So they've already taken control of it. And let me see, I'm trying to get back to So I really do appreciate it. It's nice to be honored again and be treated like a hero for a little bit. And just a great job by all the students and Craig, by your team to get this put together. The last thing I would say is talking to the Marines and all the special operators, I think it would be a really good idea. We all think it would be a really good idea that all the students get A's for this project in the class. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments. Next, we have one last student who wanted to say a few words. Arthur, you have the floor.
Richard Ivan Queen served as vice consul to the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, aiding in making sure the rights of Americans in Iran were protected. Queen would become one of the first hostages released during the Iran hostage crisis due to complications with MS, or multiple sclerosis, never letting his worsening condition deter him from maintaining his hope for release. Even as his condition continued to worsen upon his return to Washington, D.C., Queen still went on to have a successful career in civil service, with him continuing to serve as a consular officer to the nations of Canada and the United Kingdom. If there's one thing to take away from Queen's journey, it is that to never let any of life's obstacles, no matter how harrowing or terrifying they may be, to come in the way of one's hopes and ambitions. I'm thankful to have learned about Queen's story, as I now can take his wisdom and apply it to my own journey through life.
Thank you, Arthur. Appreciate those comments. So that concludes the student presentations. I just have a few things to wrap it up with. And I was doing some research about the Cher reunion, or celebration, I should say. And I know that Mr. Cher was given an American Eagle t-shirt when he was released. And so we are going to present the Cher family with a Brave t-shirt because we have adopted them. And you can see the t-shirt right here. And so Cher family, you are Braves for life. That's just how it's going to be. And I'm going to show you the back here for a little bit. And I will deliver this to you myself in the days to come here. So that's one thing that we wanted to do to recognize you and to remember your family. That's the first thing. The other thing is, I know that when Mr. Cher came home, he planted a tree to remember, him and that sort of thing. And I think it was uprooted as they built the new city hall. And so we have decided to make a change. And so let me show you with a little screen share here what we have done. And just give me a second and I will let you see this. What we have now is the Cher family tree that is planted right by our faculty entrance. And so this will be a permanent